Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Dare to Try podcast. I'm Bretagne.
I'm Anike.
I am Johanna.
Yes.
Always singing. Always the singing.
Always the singing.
Now it's tradition.
And we are on, is this episode 19?
Yes.
Episode 19. Can you believe
Wow.
it? It's been 19 episodes, 19 dares, a lot of truth, and I am loving it.
Long years. Oh, wait. Just kidding.
19
awesome.
wonderful episodes. I'm so proud of us.
Are you counting our first one where we talked about what we would talk about in our podcast?
No, I am not counting that because that was like then this would be number 20. That reminds me of a Twilight Zone Joe Rogan episode.
What?
Where, like, Joe Rogan's episodes where he goes from one topic to another and you just hop around and you're laughing and you're joking and you're discussing, and some are intense and sometimes it's funny, but it's usually very informative and, still somehow focused. Except ours was not quite that. And so I would say Twilight Zone Joe Rogan.
Oh, I get it. Do. Well, we have fun. And, and that's what we talked about. Even if we didn't have any listeners, which we are, our following is growing, and we had our first event and we have some awesome success stories from that where girls were literally changed by it. But despite all that, part of the reason we got together was because we're in 3 different states and we wanted to spend time with each other. And we hope that we can empower women. We hope that we can change lives and serve others. And so it's cool to see that we get to spend time with each other digitally and actually fulfill the other dreams. And it's not just a fun phone call.
Exactly. We get to have our cake and eat it too.
I'd be eating pie though.
Johanna, what about you? Ice cream?
Actually, I just tried a new recipe for fruit pizza. It was divine. And I got everybody hooked on it, even people who don't like sweets. So,
like the stuff they have at Pizza Pie Cafe, the dessert pizzas?
Kind of. It has the crust is a cookie, and then the frosting is like cream cheese and vanilla and sugar, and then you put whatever fruit you want, like kiwi and strawberries and blueberries, and then you have an apple jelly.
So good. Oh my gosh.
That sounds good.
Keep talking my language.
That's awesome.
I love that. Well,
to try that.
I'm glad you brought up foods because that will tie into this week's Truth and Dare. But before we jump to this week's, we want to talk about last week's. How did everybody do?
Great. It was a really fun week. And I remembered why I wanted to do that dare, because I miss doing those fun, wild things just because, and not care what people think. Like I used to do that all the time in my early 20s. And so it was a lot of fun.
And this was your dare, Anike. Did it go like you planned?
Yeah. So I feel like I do embarrassing things all the time, but because the dare was on top of my mind, I was more intentional about things. And first it started really tame. Like I had all these, for some reason I washed my leggings and there was these little like lint balls all over my leggings and it looked horrible. And I couldn't get them off. And instead of going, oh, I'm not going to wear these, that's embarrassing, I'm like, I'm going to wear these. And so I wore them to the gym. And I was like, that's my first step in doing embarrassing things. But then I started doing some other stuff. Like I got a bunny costume at work for our Easter egg hunt. And so I I did some pranks on some people. We put a bunny costume on someone's chair. So when they walked in their office, they were like, ah. So we did that prank. And then I walked down the hall with the bunny head on my arm. And I like crawled underneath someone's office window and then popped it out to see if they would have a reaction. And I purposely chose this person because he is not reactive at all. Like he shows no emotion. He's the guy who's like, fun. And so and it's like an inside joke at work because one of our core values is fun, and we have a t-shirt that says fun and like non-exclamation mark or anything. So he's like, fun. Anyway, so when I popped up to him, I thought I'm going to get him this time. I thought he's going to go, but no, this was him. He was at his computer and he just went, that's it. And so I was like, okay, well, so it was like felt more embarrassing because he wasn't like, so I was like, oh, well. And then, what else did I do? Oh, I was driving downtown Idaho Falls, and because it's warming up, they have those electric scooters out by the waterfalls. And it's so pretty. They just have these paths that go for miles, and the waterfalls are just so pretty right now. And I have never been on those electric scooters before, and I was busy and I should have been back at work, but I was like, nope, I'm doing it. So I pulled over and I got the app real quick and I hopped on, and I didn't know what I was doing. There was like 10-year-olds going way past me, and I'm like trying to kick, and like I don't understand how it starts. And I realized that the little like go button's up here. And so I do it, and I do one of these. It was like it took off. But I am not even kidding you. I was giggling out loud the entire time. I was just by myself, and I didn't have my phone. Well, I had my phone on me because I was taking pictures, but I wasn't like distracted. I was just enjoying the waterfalls, enjoying the sun, and doing a lot of these things, and just giggling out loud. And I'm like waving to people, and it was so much fun. And I did that because of the dare. And then lastly, and I did show that on social media, so you guys can see that. And then today I was like, I just got to do one more thing. And so I was at the gym, and I thought I was going to dance around the whole gym, just hopping and skipping and dancing around. But I found myself like not wanting to do it. And I was like having a conversation with myself, like, why do I care about what they think? Why do I care about what they think? I don't know these people. This isn't me. I dance all the time. And I'm like having conversation. And so I was like slowly working up the courage. And then I went into like a corner where there wasn't very many people, put in my headphones, put in some Jason Derulo, and I just started like sidestepping for a minute, which I think is more awkward than just fully owning it. Yes. So I'm just like kind of dancing. And then I'm like, okay, just get into it. So I close my eyes, and then I get in more like an open area, and I'm like going all dancing all over. And then I see these cute old ladies, and they're staring at me, and some other people are staring at me, and they look at me, but they don't want me to know they're looking at me. So they kind of do one of these, like they were like, kept looking away, and it was so funny. And then I finally like loosened up, and I was like, oh, this is so fun. And then I just ran across the row of treadmills and just high-fived everybody. And I was like, good job, you're doing great. Yeah. And they were like, some of them I was like trying to high five, and they were just like, oh, okay. It was so funny. So yeah, it was a very fun week.
Oh my gosh, Anike, this is amazing. I did like one thing, and you took it upon yourself to go, how can I not only embarrass myself, but how can I be myself and not care if it is embarrassing to anyone else? And let me ask you, was this one of the funnest weeks you've had in a long time?
It really was. Like, I was literally laughing out loud on that scooter and then high-fiving people. I ended up like skipping to the locker room and going, oh, I'm so glad I did that, instead of like overthinking and hanging my head low and be like, oh my gosh, I was too embarrassed to do that. Like, I would have regretted not doing it, but I didn't regret doing it, even though it was ridiculous.
Oh, Anike, I think we're going to have to revisit this dare, because I feel like I did not live up to the possibility like you did, going on the scooters and laughing with no one around, at your place of work with the bunny costume, and then at the gym, which I dance all the time at the gym. That's a normal thing for me. I high five, I lip sync, I jump, rope, kind of crazy. I'm that person. So to hear you do that just warms my soul. I hope it becomes a thing every time you work out.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it like helps encourage people. Like, you can tell it uplifted their spirits as soon as you high five them. And I also noticed that I'm more likely to do these like wild, embarrassing, funny things when I have friends with me. Cause it's like, you're safer for some reason. Like us all three together doing the reels, I didn't care as much what people thought. I cared a little bit because people were watching, but because we were together, it's like, I don't know, it just felt safer. But being completely by myself, that was more nerve-wracking, but it was good because it was getting out of my comfort zone. And that's what this is all about.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh.
It's so true. Because like when you're with your friends, like if someone is like judging you or making comments or looking at you or something, at least you have your friend or your sister or someone to be like, whatever, you strengthen each other. So it's so good to, have family and friends with you, but, it also strengthens you to do it on your own. Like you did that on your own. It can be scary. So good job.
And taking the courage by yourself. So, Anike, do you have anything else that you want to share about your experience? I feel like you have all these little like nuggets, or shall I go?
Well, I do want to say, because I did have a quote, we grew up, all three of us, I think Johanna, of course Johanna remembers because you loved Mrs. Doubtfire, but Robin Williams, he was a great comedian and he passed away several years ago, but he said something that has stuck with me since high school. He said, "You're only given a spark of madness. You mustn't lose it." And I just love that. We all have a little bit of madness. We all have a little bit of wild or crazy inside of us. And if we don't use it, we lose it. And I think this dare was a good reminder to do that.
Oh, I love that. I love that quote. I don't know if I was familiar with that Robin Williams quote. It made me think of Alice in Wonderland. I think that's one of the reasons why I love that Lewis Carroll story so much is we're all mad here. And the Mad Hatter and the world that Alice goes into is all weird and crazy and different. And I think each of us have a little, wonderland in our head, and we're sometimes afraid to show that. I love that. Well, I'll go. I did not do all of those things. I actually was really not feeling good this last week, and I was super bummed because I was so excited to get this dare. I was so excited. I started to think, what can I do and how can I, perform? I went to performing right away. I want to perform. And I thought, I could do this. I could dress up in a fun outfit. I could, I had so many ideas, but then I felt really sick. And I actually only worked half days a couple of days, and I just didn't have the energy. And I was a little worried that I wasn't going to be able to complete this dare. And I took opportunities. So if I felt like dancing at the gym when I did go back, I did. On my work calls, I wasn't showered. I was in sweats and no makeup on. Several people commented on how sick and tired I looked. But I was okay with it. It didn't embarrass me because the truth was I was sick and I was tired and I was okay. I was okay with people seeing like dried snot under my nose. It didn't matter. So I embraced it in a completely different way. And, but then I had an opportunity. I was feeling a little bit better. And Sunday night, oh my gosh, I was going to do this on Sunday, but I still was feeling drained. And I picked up patio furniture, and the timeline just kept getting pushed back. But I was like, I'm going to do this tonight. I have to get this done. And so I decided I was going to lip sync to a song that I performed when I was 14 at a youth center. And it's Shania Twain, "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." And instead of dressing up in a top hat and a trench coat, I decided I was going to dress up in a cap and a sweatsuit and sweatpants and strip down to really cute, like boy shorts and a tank top, and let my hair down and do it that way. Well, by the time I found somewhere, it was dark. So I had to find somewhere where there's a spotlight, and I go to this park that I love. And the only place that there is a light bright enough and a place that I felt safe to like set my stuff up and leave my car, which had the windows rolled down because had furniture sticking out of it. But I was this spot right next to a playground, and there were families still in the dark at this playground. And I thought, oh no, I can't do it here. There's people here. Which the whole point is for people to see you. So I was like, that's okay. We're going to do it. Then, multiple people walking their dogs, getting home, unloading groceries. I mean, there's a neighborhood right there. And I have more of an audience than I thought I would have if I had just done it in the middle of the day, in the middle of a field, when people, could have come by at any time. So I set everything up. And I get started and I run through it and I feel amazing and realize that the camera, it didn't record. I forgot to hit record or whatever. So I was like, so I'm going to put my clothes back on, and I reset it up and I do it again. And guess what? Mom calls and interrupts the video. So I was like, that's okay. I'm going to do it again. So I get dressed, put my clothes back on.
What did you tell Mom? Did you like, hold on, Mom, I'm in the middle of embarrassing myself. Can I call you back?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. And so then I do it a third time, and it's going great. And this is the video that I posted. I was feeling myself. I took my cap off and I threw it and knocked my camera right off the tripod.
Which when I saw that, because it's posted on Instagram for those that want to see it, I thought it was intentional because it was like right at that beat. And I was like, oh, that was awesome. She has good aim.
Yes, it was intentional. That is correct.
I thought it looked like it because you were so confident when you threw it, and then it knocked over, and I was like, oh, whoa, what a way to end that.
I wanted it to go over the top. I wanted it to like go towards the camera, not at the camera. Any case, so I went to go set it up one more time. And while I was doing that, a car drives up right next to me. And there's a bunch of guys hanging outside of this car. And one guy gets out and walks up to me as I'm like,
scary,
setting up, and I'm in the dark and I'm half naked. And he's like, hey, so what are you doing? And I was like, so shocked. I wish I had said something cool like lip syncing to Shania Twain. What does it look like I'm doing? But that is not what I said. I said, my sisters and we have a podcast and we're doing this dare, and I'm being myself out in public and not afraid to embarrass myself. And he's like, oh, well, I just want you to know that we're watching you. And I was like, okay. He's like, does that embarrass you? And I stop and I think, you know what? No, it doesn't. I thought it would. I thought I'd be completely embarrassed, but actually, I'm glad you're watching. I'm going to do it one more time if you want to stick around. And he, gave me props, and decided to follow me on social media, and then, went on his way. And I did it one more time. The camera, because my phone was dying, actually cut out halfway through the song. So I did not have a complete performance. So we're going to have to redo this. But I felt invigorated. I stopped feeling sick. I felt alive. I felt like myself. I was driving home. I called Mom and said, sorry, Mom, I had to put my clothes on. I was naked in the park, but we're good now. And I was driving home, and I kept thinking, if I accidentally roll a stop sign or drive a little funky, I must look like I'm drunk. But it's because I'm so high on how much fun I just had.
That's so cool.
I love that.
I love it because I'm a big proponent of dancing. Like even when you don't feel like it, and you just showed that worked, because like when you're not feeling well, we have this body language, but when you're dancing, you have this different posture that tells your brain otherwise. And I remember a girl in high school she had the flu in the middle of West Side Story. Like she was thrown up backstage and everything. But then when she got on stage, she was like, Puerto Rico, and like just like was going at it and was totally great. No one had any idea she had the flu. And then when she got backstage, she like threw up some more and like was horrible. But there's something about like dancing and just like having fun that just, it makes you high and it does help you to feel better. And so I'm so glad you got to do that. And that's hilarious that those boys said, "Are you embarrassed?"
Yeah, that was fun.
Well, I'll go. So I had a really hard time. Like, so last week you guys asked me, and it's like, oh, it'd be really fun to like get dressed up in my wedding clothes and take pictures. Like, I thought it'd be fun. But when I asked Caden, he's like, no, like it's going to be way too easy for you to not be embarrassed if I'm doing it with you. And that was his excuse. I'm like, we all know in reality, you don't want to do this because you'd be embarrassed. He's like, no, that's not it. So then he was trying to figure out what would embarrass me. And I really don't get embarrassed. And like at work, like I'm singing all the time, even when there's not music. And when there is music, I'm like belting it, you know? And everybody's just like, so like only one guy will sing with me. And then this other guy always asks me, hey, so who sings that song? And I'm just like, I know what you're doing. So I'm always embarrassing myself. And so Caden's like, what really embarrasses you? And I was thinking, and at the same time, we looked at each other. I'm like talking about sexual things. And he's like, I know. And he's like, let's call your mom. And I was like, what? And he's like, just talk to her. And in the background, I'll just start making some noises. And I'm just like, oh no. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then I looked at him and I'm like, yes, let's do that. And then he got embarrassed. And so really he's just yanking my chain. And so he just kept on doing that. And so this whole time I was thinking I don't get embarrassed, but the whole point of this, well, at least I thought, was to entertain you guys. I'm like, okay, I'm not necessarily embarrassed, but what's going to entertain you? And I actually was running out of time. It's an hour before our podcast. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I'm like, I know, I have a unicorn onesie. And so I put this on.
And it looks so good on you.
For those that are not watching, Johanna is wearing a rainbow unicorn onesie that looks like it was made for her.
Yeah, it looks pretty awesome. Because when she was a kid, her favorite color was rainbow. So it just makes sense.
This makes sense. So I put my unicorn onesie on and I decided to go for a walk around the neighborhood. And naturally, my two daughters wanted to come with me. And they put on their unicorn rain boots to match me. And we went to walking around and no one is out and about, but everyone's windows are open. I'm like, I think this counts. And then I still don't see anyone and I'm walking and like, I'm just like walking out of our driveway and Caden sets off the car alarm and it's going off and it scared me. I'm like, now everyone's definitely paying attention, but I still can't see them. So I'm like, okay. So I keep walking and I see a lady with her dog and I'm like, that kind of looks like my next door neighbor, like right next door. And I'm like, it's not her. So we just keep walking and we take a little loop. We come back and she is walking right at us. And sure enough, it's my next door neighbor. And she's looking at me up and down. And she's like, hey, how's it going? I thought that was you. I wasn't sure though. And I'm like, yeah. And the dog is just like kind of yapping at the kids. And so we're trying to like walking away. So I look away and I look back and she's just like looking at me. And I'm like, this is what I look like all the time. And I was like, these are your jammies. And I'm just like, oh gosh. And so I just keep walking. And I'm like, all right, well, this is me. This is my experience. So it wasn't as exciting as you guys, but
yeah, it was.
That's what I got.
that lady was totally embarrassed for you, and you did not let it phase you at all, which is awesome, because she was totally like, oh my gosh, I would never do that. Like, she sounded like she was judging you hardcore, and you're just like, I don't care. This is who I am, and I'm having fun.
Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was just surprised because she's never seen me like this before. I don't know.
Maybe she was looking for an explanation.
Right,
Maybe.
exactly. For you to say, hey, I'm wearing this because that's that's what I wanted to do when those guys came up to me, is I wanted to say, I'm just lip syncing to Shania Twain. I wanted to not tell them why I was doing it. So I'm totally going to do a redo and not tell anyone that this is part of a podcast or a dare, that I just like to randomly lip sync Shania Twain.
Well, there was
and now it won't be anyway, because the dare's over. So when you do it, it'll be like that.
Anike, you asked us about like lying. I can't remember what it was, but pretending and just keeping a straight face and everything. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't put on an accent and just hold it the whole time and not explain myself. But that thought came to my mind when she came up to me. And I'm like, if she asks, I'm not, because I feel like I'm cheating. If I tell her, then it's almost like a comfort zone or a safety net type thing. If I say it, then I'm like, oh, this isn't really me. It's a dare. I wouldn't ever really do this, Bretagne. And
exactly. I know. I got to do it again.
You're such a cheater.
I am.
No, I think it was great. I think we all had great experiences. I think it's so awesome. I love that. And I love that you're still wearing your unicorn outfit. And I love that Kaden sounded the horn so you can get more attention. That was perfect. That's awesome. So did either of you learn something about yourself or recall something about yourself that you didn't remember until this dare or anything like that?
Yeah, for me, I remembered that I love to perform, and that I'm at my best when I'm performing. I'm an artist, I'm a dancer, I'm a performer. It's just who I am. And even when I'm sick, I can still pull it together and do a good performance. But also the fear or anxiety or the anticipated embarrassment that leads up to something is never what you actually experience in the middle of that thing you were fearing or anxious about or embarrassed to do. I felt pure joy. And it was so inspirational. And I just wanted to tell everyone, go do this, go be yourself and not care what people think, because it feels so good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think for me, it just helped me even more realize that I don't care what people think. And I don't know how long it's been pretty recent, but at the same time, it feels like forever that I have been feeling like this. Because I said at work, I sing, I dance all the time at lacrosse. I know I embarrass my high school lacrosse girls because, as high schoolers, you're super insecure or self-conscious. And so for me to be out there and I look like them, I look like I'm a teenager when I'm with them, and I'm out there singing, dancing awkward and doing all kinds of weird things, and it embarrasses them. And there's maybe one girl who's willing to dance with me, and it's definitely the weird one. And I'm like, all right, well, I look like this to everybody else, so it's fine. But yeah, I definitely realized that it feels good to not care. It feels good. If I want to sing, I'm going to sing. If I want to dance, I'm going to dance. And I remember seeing other people do it. I remember a coworker, when we would go test fitness machines, she would dance her heart out. And to everybody else, it looked a little weird, especially because she was probably offbeat. I couldn't tell because the music was in her ears. But I was just impressed because she was dancing and it didn't matter. And so now when I dance out in public, I actually think of her. I'm like, I probably look so stupid to everybody else, but I don't care. It feels so good to not care. I don't know. It's freeing.
Yeah, it is freeing. And that's why my thing is to never overthink, because overthinking is that's what gets you in your head of like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? Are they going to not like me? Or this is weird. What am I thinking? This is stupid. That overthinking stops you from doing fun things, from succeeding, from trying, from working harder, from putting yourself out there, for being different, because you're so stuck in your head. But if we can overcome that overthinking, then you're unstoppable and you are free and you become unleashed. And so I love that. And it was especially important for me, because the whole reason why I talk about never overthinking was because I started to do it, and I was doing it more and more and more. And then I stopped doing these silly things, and I was stopped being myself, and I was becoming more serious. And so this was really good for me to just feel like myself and just do silly things. And I feel so good about it. Like no regrets at all.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
This was an amazing week. Thank you again, Anike, for giving us that dare, and to Johanna for doing it. This was awesome. And I'm excited to hear if any of our listeners decide to do this dare. I would love, love, love to hear about it, to see what they do, share their messages, their posts. We'd love to see that.
Yeah, I love that.
So let's bring it in for our next truth or dare. So it's my turn. It's my week. And I'd like us to switch gears and talk about our relationship with food. So let me ask you, truth, what was one of your favorite snacks as a kid? Maybe it was kind of weird. Maybe it was totally normal, but what was something that you loved to eat when you were a kid?
So I have a lot, and I didn't know they were weird until I bring them up to Dan. So I'm going to name 3 real quick. Potato pancakes. Dan was like, I didn't know you can make pancakes out of potatoes. And he's just like, German. But Tim it was. He's like, Germans use potatoes in more ways than Americans do. Ice cream that looked and was in the shape of spaghetti. Do you remember those? Spaghetti ice. And lastly, Leberwurst. For those who don't know what that is, it is spreadable meat. And I don't like it anymore, but I did as a kid. And you spread it on, and it looks like vomit. You spread it on toast.
Leberwurst is so good for you. It's strong in iron and vitamins. But yes, it is
spreadable meat.
It's spreadable meat made out of liver.
Yep. And it's a weird color, and there's nothing that tastes like it. I have never had anything else that tastes like that. So that's mine.
Those are good ones. Johanna.
Let me think. So I love sprinkles. And I remember Mom taking me to the church. And I don't know why we would go so late at night, but it was always at nighttime. And she was getting ready for to teach a lesson or something, for the kids. I don't remember. And we're in the cupboard, and they had rainbow sprinkles to put on cake. And she would give me some, and I would just eat it out of the cup. And then she started buying it whole for me. And to this day, I have sprinkles in my cupboard that I will just take a little.
So gross.
Hello, Snoops.
You are a literal unicorn talking about eating rainbow.
Yeah, you eat sparkles. You live off of sparkles.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so you know the movie Elf, you know how he does spaghetti, and then he puts syrup, and he always carries a little syrup with him. So bacon is always good. I love bacon, and it is not complete until you put a little bit of syrup on it. And just
I agree with that.
Yes. I got my sprinkles and bacon and syrup. And
are you an elf?
No, she's a unicorn.
She's a unicorn, my bad.
See what I'm wearing?
Obviously. Oh my gosh, so good. Well, I also remember spaghetti ice, and potato pancakes, I think is still very normal.
So yummy.
What's that?
It's yummy.
It's yummy. Exactly.
If you haven't had it, you got to eat it.
Yeah. If you haven't had potato pancakes, you are missing out. One of my favorite things was puffertjes. Do you remember puffertjes?
I still love those.
They're the little, like, I guess I would compare them to like baby pancake pockets that are inflated in these, hollow spheres that flatten and are covered in butter and powdered sugar and elderberry syrup. So good. You get them in Holland. But I also, one of my favorite candies was sour French fries. And I would go to the Penny Mart and I would buy a new pack every 2 days. I mean, the fact that I have diabetes is impressive. And I would just eat this, and sour French fries, I think they were pineapple flavored gummies, covered in sugar, but in the shape of French fries. And they were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you haven't been able to find them, right? Because I remember trying to look here in the States and we haven't been able to find them.
No, you can find them at certain, like at Maverick, they'll have the like gummy pizzas or gummy burgers and fries, and there'll be like 3 sour French fries in that.
Oh yeah.
And I have seen there is a company that will make kind of like a gummy bear bag of sour French fries, but they're smaller and different colors, so they're not quite the same. Yeah. But I don't really eat that stuff anymore. I don't really buy candy. I sometimes buy chocolate, which brings me to this week's challenge.
Wait, you didn't bring up the chocolate cereal.
Oh, of course. We better mention this, otherwise Mom will be very disappointed. So,
or Hachelslach. Nobody said Hachelslach.
Hachelslach. You're gonna have to explain what Hachelslach is.
Hachelslach. Well, for those who think we are hawking a loogie, Hachelslach is chocolate sprinkles that you put on bread, and it's so good. You could have it toasted with butter, or you could have it not toasted, and they're just so good.
Are you a unicorn too, Annika?
No. Chocolate unicorn.
Chocolate unicorn.
Oh, but I love those so much.
Yeah, Hachelslach and Flocken. Oh, so good.
What's Flocken?
Flocken is the flakes.
Just want you to explain it.
Instead of the sprinkles, you have flakes, chocolate flakes on buttered bread.
Those were good too. And German chocolate is different than American chocolate. It's way better. So if you're thinking of American waxy chocolate sprinkles, that's not what it is.
Yeah. And it's different because it's made in a completely different place. We grew up having curry ketchup, and I thought all ketchup was curry ketchup. And then you came to the United States and we have this weird sweet ketchup. And in fact, if you go to an import store and buy a can of SpaghettiOs, and you go to our regular grocery store and buy a can of SpaghettiOs, they're completely different. There is 25% more sugar in the American one, and all this added ingredients that is not in the imported one. And so we had this great experience as kids living in Germany and experiencing other flavors and really learning to play with all these options. And I know that I've, been in the States a long time, and I get kind of stuck in my ways. I use the same handful of spices: salt, pepper, garlic powder, and basil on everything. It doesn't matter if it's pork chops or fish. I do it on everything. And even on my eggs, it's the exact same seasonings. I have
garlic and basil on your eggs.
Oh, it's delicious.
Oh, weird.
And extra black pepper on everything. I even put black pepper in my Greek yogurt the other day just to see. And I was like, oh, I love this.
It's so gross. You always have like weird food things. Like you got caught on like, what was it, graham crackers and frosting for like a month straight? That's all you ate? I mean, it's good. That's not that weird, but.
Yeah, well, and funny. I used to keep a tub of frosting under my bed in case I needed some in the middle of the night.
I thought that was jelly beans.
Oh, no, that too. That was the jelly bean phase. It's one phase at a time.
You've come so far. Bretagne does not eat like this anymore.
No, but food is comforting, and food used to be and should still be used as medicine. I was feeling really sick, and one of the things I did was need more vitamin C. So in addition to taking vitamin C supplements, I got oranges and strawberries, both potent in vitamin C. I got elderberry syrup. There are all these ways that we can heal ourselves and comfort ourselves without diving into fats and sugars and processed foods. So this week's dare is to explore your adult palate and try a new spice, a new flavor, a new ingredient, and make something new. And let us know how it goes.
So it's not just trying it, we have to make it too?
Well,
we can't just get it from the restaurant or something?
Well, if you decide that you're going to try mussels at a restaurant and you're not going to make mussels at home, which mussels are phenomenal if you don't eat them, you can get them frozen and cook them at home too. But if you decide to go out to eat and try something strange or different, that's fine. But I want to encourage the creative aspect as well of go to an import store, go to your local Chinese market, go pick up a spice or a vegetable that looks strange to you and just try it.
Okay. I always wanted to get those weird looking fruits at the market. Like I think a jackfruit's like this big and it's like spiky and like the strangest looking thing. Or I can't remember.
Don't get jackfruit.
Well, because jackfruit they use to replace meat. Like a lot of vegans use it to make it taste like meat. So I'm sure it's not very fruity. But yeah, there's lots of exotic things that I haven't wanted to try, but I will because of this dare.
Yeah, go and explore. And maybe you're not sure what you want to do. So go to the store and pick up something small. Maybe it's a piece of fruit you don't have to cook with. But I challenge you, read the spices. Find a spice. Like I have always wanted to use saffron. I don't know what you do with saffron. I just know it's expensive and comes in a tiny little bottle.
It's in like all the Indian dishes.
Oh, well then I guess I gotta make some curry.
Yeah, so think Indian food. I dare you to go to like a import store where you can't read the ingredients, like they're in Chinese or Japanese characters or
Done. That is not a problem for me. I will try the weird canned food.
It's a little dangerous, but yeah, you should do it.
Okay, I love it. So do you accept this dare?
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Okay, any questions?
No, it's going to be great.
Awesome. Before we end, I do want to mention what Haferflocken is because I feel like it was kind of a tease.
I've been waiting.
So the chocolate cereal that Johanna is talking about, this is something I love. And honestly, if I had milk in my house right now, I would make it as soon as we got off this podcast. But you take raw oats, old-fashioned oats, you pour them in a bowl. You get either Nesquik powder, chocolate powder, or like Hershey syrup and milk. And you eat this bowl of cold chocolate oats. And we call it Haferflocken, which is actually just oats in German. And Germans eat this all the time, but without the chocolate. So it was our mom who made it a little bit more unicorn-esque and added the chocolate for us.
Oh, yeah, well, because we grew up with a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So everything had sugar in it.
Do you remember mom would actually give us medicine with a spoonful of sugar? Oh, yeah. We have
that's because she gave us fire medicine.
Oh gosh. I still have fire medicine. It works, by the way.
It works. It works. Mom knows what's up.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thank you so much for listening. This was a super fun episode. We got to dive in a little bit more into our past and our culture. Food is about culture. It's about personality. It's about exploring. So I encourage each of you that are listening to try a new food, a new ingredient, and we're going to do the same. And we'll catch you next week on the Dare to Try podcast.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.